And right now you're all weak. And I know that because I was you. I used to have no friends. Used to be the weirdo kid. Not that weird, I still hooked up with babes and all, but the point is I wasn't always the badass sensei I am today. Just like a cobra, I had to shed my loser skin to find my true power. And you guys will too.
Welcome to No Mercy, a Cobra Kai Kickback. My name is Jakob Burrows, and I represent Miyagi-Do. And I'm so thirsty for someone to play beat-em-ups, fun-time karate games with me that I'm asking every random kid that shows up at my door, but no one will do it because of social distancing.
And my name is Jim Scampoli. I represent Cobra Kai because I believe Johnny Lawrence and his Walkman are a more epic duo than Star-Lord's pussy ass. That's right. Here we are, episode 6 of Cobra Kai. What the hell is the title of this?
Quiver.
Episode? Yes, Quiver, of course.
I mean, it's tremble or shake with slight rapid motion, a slight trembling movement or sound, especially caused by fear, or obsolete, a group of cobras. Because we're building that group of cobras starting right here in episode 6. Directed by Josh Harold, story by Josh Harold, John Hurwitz, Hayden Schlossenberg, teleplay by Joe I can't pronounce any of these names, I'm sorry. Pierre Rulli and Lewin Thompson.
Well, I mean, these are the think tank that is Cobra Kai. Names you'll hear a lot. Names you'll hear again. The shepherds of this show. Now, the interesting thing with this episode, because obviously we see young Johnny as kind of I guess he was a loser, and his discover of Cobra Kai, as before he became All Valley Karate Champion, or then lost that crown to Daniel LaRusso. He's just a fresh-faced kid looking through the window, much like a young Daniel LaRusso was at one point in time as well. But we get into him dealing with, I guess, being Kreese now. And I'm trying to get a read on this episode where, is Johnny sabotaging himself throughout this? Like, is he trying to push these people away because he's afraid of failure, or because whatever he's doing works? So I can't tell if he meant for it to work or if it just works. Like, what's your read on the choice that Johnny makes once he has this dojo full of students?
It's a good question. He does a lot of harsh talk, a lot of unnecessary talk, but it's part of his method. And it feels like the show's saying, nah, he's right. You need to insult people until they get good and hard. I guess maybe he's been playing too many of those Nintendo games, and he thinks that everyone should just get good.
Yeah, because I can't fully read it, because I feel like initially, he's clearly nervous, and he's now stepping in to the Kreese role, and I don't know, is he having second thoughts of raising these, not quite raising, but training these kids in a proper way, or is he going to make the same faults that Kreese did with him, or is he just worried that he's going to fail, or am I just reading too much into this?
You might be reading too much into it. I'm not sure. I think I'd have to go through the beats here and see what conclusion I arrive at, because I mainly just remember him being really mean and basically doing the Kreese thing, except at the end he does this twist where he talks about how he was a loser too, and what Eli or Hawk does is a big confirmation that he was right all along to insult his lip.
Yeah, exactly. Which is weird. That's why, because it feels like at the end he kind of realized oh shit, maybe what I'm doing is not quite right, and I can relate. I can relate to you, because Miguel does tell him you don't know what it's like to be us. And Johnny's realizing, well, yeah, I do. I mean, kind of going back to what we were talking about before of when someone who is a bully watches something like this, are they relating to the bullies, or are they relating to our bullied hero? But as we all know, not everyone's journey, or no one's really that cut and dry. Everyone has their own things that make them the way they are, so you can, I guess, relate to the hero, even if you're a piece of shit. But
Yeah.
Johnny himself, it was a nerd. I mean, he got babes, of course, but he was also a loser.
Do you think the flashbacks in this episode do a good enough job of supporting that? Because it just is him with his cassette player, right? And then he has it in the future, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I remember." Like, I feel like it relates more to Robbie putting on his headphones to drown out his mother's noises of a different variety, because that's what he's doing in this flashbacks. Those points seem more connected to me than him going like, "Yeah, I was a loser once too." I mean, sure, he's looking back at before he knew karate and was all cool in his own eyes, but it's basically his parents arguing, which no one is there learning karate because their parents are unhealthy. Like, that's more of an internal Lawrence situation that he's dealing with, you know? So wouldn't it have, in a way, made more sense to have him, maybe it would have been too on the nose, but like have him like see what he was like in school, because that's the thing that all of these kids don't think he can relate to. So maybe he would remember what it was like in school before he learned karate. Instead, we see his home life. So I'm not entirely sure if that was the best choice or not.
I suppose maybe you could look at it as when he's looking at his cassette player or his Walkman, he's remembering that before he had karate, that was his escape. Like, that's your thing that you can escape into. And even if it's not necessarily being picked on by other kids, you know, they're looking for some sort of escape. They're looking for something to make them feel better. And it just so happens that these kids are looking for karate, and he can relate, because it seems like, in a way, even though he still listens to kick-ass rock in his car, but maybe he put that cassette player down when he picked up karate. And that was the new thing, even though he still kept it in a box, of course. Thank God that, I'm sure it was in the pawn shop box. Thank God that pawn shop owner didn't pick that up. We would have lost this moment, and Cobra Kai would have went down the tubes.
Very true. So we get a few different scenes of him trying to teach his students, starting like, and the classroom, the dojo gets progressively more and more empty. Originally, they don't even know what he means with any of the stuff. You know, they're. I guess he's comparing it as well to, you know, the orderly rows that he's remembers seeing before he even started at Cobra Kai, and now he's seeing that this bunch, they don't even deserve to be taught. And as Miguel, as always, reasonably points out, yeah, but you still need their money, right? Like, aren't you going to change them? Do you want them to show up and they're already great at karate and know what everything you're talking about means? Like, you're supposed to teach them as well. So we get a few different scenes of him going through these motions, being mean, like basically beating up Dimitri, being really mean to Eli in these different sequences. Yeah, it's him just coming to terms, because he's never been a teacher before, so him just getting grips with the basics.
Would it be too? I guess it'd be maybe too big of a leap for Johnny at this point to realize that maybe if we weren't going into a flashback of him being like a loser with no friends in school, realizing that he's a loser now, and even if he couldn't relate to that life in school, like, I guess he doesn't quite have the self-awareness. Maybe it's still a little bit there, but I mean, at the very least, his life right now, he's not, you know, the most popular belle at the ball. He doesn't have all these friends or great job or things to keep him afloat. Like, he's them, but just in the real world, which is kind of worse. Like, anyone can be a nerd in high school, and at least there's a hope of like, hey, college, or when I get a career. But he's already way past that point.
Yeah, I think I kind of maybe would have liked that better, because I think he says like, yeah, I used to have no friends. It's like, what are you talking about? You still don't have any friends.
Yeah, exactly.
You have no friends and no purpose or anything. So maybe I guess he wouldn't be able to talk about that in front of anyone or even to himself. But yeah, him looking at his present life and comparing it to these children, or even like if what Miguel's saying, like, you have no idea what it's like to be an outcast or whatever. And then he looks at himself in the mirror, is like, you're the real outcast, Johnny. You know, good stuff like that.
Yeah,
I should clearly be a writer.
I mean, I do like that this show's not afraid to go for it, because Johnny is being a real asshole to some of these kids, but I not just that it works, like it is kind of like weird. It's weird, but also still victorious that it works. But it's also, I guess, there is a point somewhat there where, there's mean people that are gonna make fun of Eli to his face and be really terrible. But then there's other people that are gonna pity him, and that probably makes him feel shitty as well.
Yeah.
And Johnny's at least trying to put it on Front Street in a way of like, it's weird. I feel like I'm giving him more credit than what he's trying to do, but it's almost kind of like, well, let's just talk it out. Instead of everyone always thinking about it and being either a thing we're not going to bring up, or if you do bring it up, you're a jerk. Let's just get it all out there. It's like when you find your kid smoking cigarettes and you make him smoke like 100 cigarettes.
Well, that's how he got that lip.
Yeah, so he doesn't want to smoke cigarettes anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I guess because, again, like we said, for Hawk, it works, and it's a total character transformation, and he comes in and he's total badass now. So again, like you no longer have asthma; it just works through magic almost.
Yeah, it is all the magic of Cobra Kai,
and it is like we talked about all the time, but it is very silly and like nerdy when he's like, doesn't matter if you this or that. All that matters is that you're badass. You become badass. Yeah, and listen to Rush. Like, it is very silly, but that's why I don't feel like that's why I like that it works, because all of these kids are also nerds, and basically he's just teaching them to be a different kind of nerd.
Yeah, it just kind of embrace your nerdiness. Go to Comic-Con, wear that cosplay. Don't worry.
I meant more like being into karate is you're like such a dork, and he's like, because they're already kind of outcasts, it just makes sense that they would also be into karate.
Yeah, for sure. And I kind of like the way they show, like, I mean, it's an obvious thing, you see it in a lot of stuff now, the way bullying works, cyberbullying, and I just like the moment where we see through Sam's stuff here, like in the beginning, she's creeping on Miguel's Facebook.
Which, interestingly, because it's a Google product, because it's made by YouTube, this show, you're almost surprised that they would use Facebook and not have like a weird Google Plus profile for him. So you use Facebook, but they don't use the little logo, because I assume they'd have to pay for that or whatever. So it's exactly Facebook, but without the Facebook icon.
That's why I'm surprised they use Amazon so much. Like,
yeah,
they have an Alexa. They're mentioning like Amazon order Sony PSP or whatever he says. I'm surprised they're like, okay, Google. Like, I don't know, maybe they just have a deal. Amazon tossed them some bucks, I guess, because Sony's probably like the main. I think they own like Karate Kid, but then again, they have Dell computers, so whatever. Who knows the inner workings of the merchandising? But
we'll just keep buying cores.
But she's creeping on his Facebook, and then she gets tagged. Looks like it might be the gram, but it's not quite the gram. And it's a picture of someone with a bunch of sausage in her mouth, and everyone's liking it. But it's more so, I just like the moment later when she's kind of hesitant to go to her computer. Like, it's a small, quick thing, and I don't lean too much into it. They don't have to be too over the top, but I just like that. That's, to me, a nice encapsulation of what that feels like. Of like, there's the easy argument of like, oh, you're getting cyberbullied, just turn your computer off. But you get a notification, it's kind of like, oh geez, what the fuck is this? But no, it's a hilarious talking pig that Miguel put together, because we know he designed a Cobra Kai website, so he has no problem animating a talking pig, making her crack up. Really boss alpha move here. Love it. Good work.
Yes, talk about striking first with that pig gif. Yeah, you're right, it's not as easy as just turn it off, but every teenager, well, maybe I'm wrong, I don't know teenagers, but every human that I know has their phone on silent at all times. And yet, in every show, there's always so many notifications, and somehow there's a sound effect when a new comment pops up, which doesn't happen on anything. But of course, it's like a visual medium, so you gotta have like, whoop, whoop, blip, blip.
Well, same when like someone hangs up the phone and it makes like a click noise. It's like, no, come on, what are you doing?
Or even the dial tone. It's like, dial tone, what? That never even happened with landlines.
And then, yeah, as you kind of hinted at the beginning of the show, this whole episode, Daniel is desperate for a student. He needs, like, he's got his dojo set up. He's, in the midst of getting back to his old self, but he needs someone to bounce off of. He needs a student. And through the, like, hilarious stupidity of his cousin Louis, it works. Like, he ends up delivering a student to him, which is, I guess, cool. Because it's funny that the previous episode set Robbie up as this, like, conniving, haha, I'll get a job at LaRusso Motors. This will teach him. But he almost immediately quits once they play a prank on him and he gets yelled at. He's like, you don't want to forget this, man. I don't need this here. And it's almost just through a comedy of errors that Robbie's plan starts to come together through no plot of his own. I guess that's better than having moments of Robbie, like, setting up his friends to rob someone at the car dealership so he can come in and save the day. And they're like, this kid's great. Let's give him a promotion. And then he's like, it's all working out to my plan.
It would certainly have been pretty bad if he was like, I'm going to learn karate from my dad's old karate rival. Like, if that was the idea, like, it's ridiculous enough that he's like, he's going to be so mad when he finds out I'm working there. Which, he would be, but, like, obviously this is way worse. And again, these bits all feel very plot devicey. It's like, let's get the pieces to the places they need to be so we can have some fun with the story. But it's, a little bit convoluted. But I mean, still believable that they'd play some pranks on the new guy, the new kid, and apparently it's insane to start a car because someone could have got killed. I don't know. I don't think Robbie's that insane for, like, believing them,
Yeah. I don't think it would be that. I mean, I guess it's dangerous. What do they think he's gonna, like, run people over? Like, if you start the car up, I guess. I mean, I would understand to be upset, but I was also kind of like, all right, settle down, Daniel. But it is, in the end, it is better that it isn't a convoluted Robbie plan and he kind of accidentally stumbles into this karate thing. And it's very similar to, like, a high school rom-com where it's like, I'll pay you to date the nerd, and then you start falling for the nerd because as we'll probably see, Robbie is going to start to really get something out of this, and it's going to be like, but I have this secret, but it's real now. Yes, it started that way, but it's real now. We'll see.
Yeah, and betwixt all of this, we have Miguel and Sam making moon eyes at each other over a pig carcass. And Dimitri's there, so that's fun.
Now, do you ever think that we'll see more of Daniel's son, like, as a character? Like,
I mean, he's great in that he's like, Alexa, order a new PS Vita, or whatever. Which, don't do that. It's 2020. Don't get a PS Vita. I mean, it wasn't when this came out, but don't. I hope we get to see him become a worse piece of shit than Robbie, because Robbie cares about his dad. Robbie's like, I'm going to show him. This kid doesn't care about anything going on around him. And he's, like, not even a teenager yet. Can you imagine what he's going to be like when he becomes a teen?
Because, like, we've talked a lot about how Johnny could have put a little bit more effort into with his son. I mean, I guess we see that Daniel is like, come on, let's go spar. Let me show you a few things. You're playing a karate video game. This is perfect. So you can do real karate. But the kid's annoying and he doesn't want to do it. So you're like, all right, fine. I'm just going to replace you with some other kid, much like Johnny does.
So true. And with this context, it is hilarious to have the two LaRusso parents in the kitchen going like, let's remember what happened last time you tried to teach me karate. And they look over at him and he's like, yeah, we shouldn't do that again.
I mean, the only thing I hope is when we see the flashback to when that happened, is that at the very least, if they're gonna disrespect the dojo like that by all of a sudden having sex, that hopefully there's a moment where Daniel reaches up and takes the Miyagi picture and puts it down, so the Miyagi picture doesn't have to watch the desecration of the dojo.
I just hope there's a tea ceremony, man. That's all I want.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, we've gone over like the basic movement. It's like Daniel doesn't have like he's just static in that he just wants a student. Robbie is being, joshed at his new job. Shows up at the end there with Vixen magazine or whatever, and Daniel's like, "Hey, do you want to stick around and learn a bit?" And Robbie's like, "Yeah." Now, do you think he's saying yeah to getting good with the boss? Is he saying yeah because he realizes learning karate would make Johnny matter, or is he just saying yeah because he also has daddy issues? I don't know. It's probably a little bit of all of them.
Yeah, it probably has a little bit of all of them, but it is funny how, like, I guess similar to how Robbie, like we mentioned in the other episode, when they're like, "Oh, have him Venmo half, and then whoever shows up first gets it," and he had to be like, "But what? Why are we gonna rob people?" It's like we end last episode with him doing this vindictive plan, but he almost immediately is kind of like desperate for some sort of belonging that, like, I feel like almost immediately he's doing a good job just because he wants to do a good job and likes that people are appreciating that.
Yeah.
And I think that just the fact that he stormed out and Daniel came after him and was like, "Hey man," I'm like, apologized and was kind of nice to him. It even leads more credence to your theory about how Johnny did a little bit more. Maybe he didn't have to push too hard. He could have had, at least Robbie giving him another chance. So I think it's just more so he fell in, and it's like, oh, great. Like someone that wants to pay attention to me and like respect me and spend time with me. I think that's the more overarching decision maker rather than I'm going to do this like scary plan.
And you're so right about the fact that he's doing a good job. Like they make a point of talking about how he's done a bunch of shit that nobody wanted to do forever. And it's like, that just shows that him dropping out of school has nothing to do. Like he clearly could do fine in school and get through it. And he's just doing that as a way of acting out sort of thing against his parents who aren't even paying attention to him. And it's sad that he's over here working super hard in a job, and it's all about basically like this is all acting out to get his dad to pay attention to him because his dad paid attention to someone else. So he's like, I'm gonna go work over here. He's gonna be so mad when he finds out. But what he's actually saying is he's gonna pay so much attention to me and be so mad when he finds out. Like that's what's going on, which is very sad. It's just I would like Robbie to be a bit more of a piece of shit, Yeah. He's not at all, really. I mean, which I suppose Johnny and Daniel's son, they are often being pieces of shit. So maybe we shouldn't put that on these new characters who are children and who are not responsible for their parents and the way their parents have molded them. But I'm still like, he's just so. But like you said, he has to be the guy. Why couldn't he be the guy who's like, the other dudes are like, just sell them to whoever shows up first. And then Robbie could be like, better yet, I'll have them both Venmo me half. Then we should give it to whoever shows up first. And then we get like 3 times the money. And they'd be like, damn, this kid is sick, yo. Because then it would make more sense that he would construct a weird Machiavellian plan to have like, it's a Daniel LaRusso last episode move to like, I'm going to get in good with my father's old rival. Like it doesn't make sense if he doesn't connect those other dots as much as well. I would just like for him to be a bit more, less of a troubled kid, more of a sort of kid who actually causes trouble too. But there we are.
Because then it starts to like, you have to break through that tougher outer shell to find that innocence or goodness in that person, whereas it's kind of already immediately shown that he's a good kid. He's in tough circumstances, which
exactly.
I mean, is still it does have its merits a bit, because I think, again, going back to at least the first Karate Kid, like Johnny being like, not a degenerate no more, man, it's senior year, I'm gonna do good. Like at least it's kind of in line with the kids are usually always good and the adults fuck them up. But then again, I don't know who fucked up Robbie's friends, like wait so that they're way worse.
It's like you said, it's just at the end there, I would kind of like if it wasn't in like the first or second scene with him and Daniel that he's already like totally earnest and like, yeah, I would love to learn karate because I believe that. And maybe it's just the actor needs to portray more layers in it or something. And maybe you could see it both ways, but I totally see it as like he's totally on board already with like, yeah, I just want someone to spend time with me who's an older male sort of figure. Which,
very
you know,
true.
and then there's not as much movement when he eventually does learn Miyagi-Do stuff and finds balance. And instead this thing at the start of, like you said, the 80s thing where, you know, you're pretending to be friends, it could actually go on for a couple episodes before he starts to appreciate it instead of having that immediately. But that's just my 2 cents.
No, I agree with that. And I guess before we fit, because we're already winding down, these go quick. I do want to give a shout out to Bert. I love Bert. That's the little kid with glasses that's that's in Cobra Kai. We only see him a little bit in this episode, but I like when they cut. I think they cut to Bert when he's like, when Johnny says, like, you know, I was the weird kid once. He kind of like he nods to Bert, like, specifically.
Well, yeah, isn't he also like, I feel like a virgin just looking at you? Or maybe that's someone else. I don't know.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess there's only a little bit of it here. Well, I mean, I guess not a little bit because Miguel is the one that kind of, I guess, talks to Johnny about it. I mean, we've talked about how Miguel, he kind of is the one that gasses up Johnny, and he, you know, really looks up to him. Is anything cracking here when Miguel's watching Johnny like really go hard on these people, or does Miguel just get it? Is Miguel just the guy like in Fight Club when, you know, they yell at you on the porch to leave and you know it's a test and you don't leave, and then someone goes to leave and you'll be like, oh no, real quick, it's just a test, don't worry about it.
Well, that's literally like what he says to Dimitri. He's like, you just got to give him a chance for like his technique to like get to you, and it'll click or whatever, you know. So I feel like he's too busy making moon eyes over dead pigs anyway. So I don't think he cares much either way. He's just kind of like 3 new absences today. Like I think he thinks that Johnny is sort of hurting himself a bit by going too hard on them, and that he could like. He needs to make better business decisions and then train them up over time and go a bit softer on them. But then he never went that soft on him either. But then because he got the one-to-one thing, he, you know, could learn faster and so on. So I don't think he's too concerned.
He did almost drown him. He threw him in a pool.
Good point. Yeah. Fair.
I don't know if Dimitri would have been able to handle the kicking lesson.
No, he would not come up on his own there at all. I'm not sure Dimitri can swim.
Yeah, we already talked about it basically at the beginning, but it is just, it's almost a cheat the way Hawk comes back, but it's also badass. So it just does leave me guessing, like, I guess I'm supposed to realize, like, no, Johnny was right. What Johnny's doing is right, even though it seems like even he's doubting if he's right kind of at the end.
Yeah. I think it is like a sort of verification for him too that he is right, and like all that matters is that you become badass. I think it feels a bit like a cheat, but it is also worth it because it makes it a reveal. Like when I first watched this, I did not expect him to come in and have a badass mohawk, and for him as a character, you're just like, yes, love this for you. Great to see, great to see this. Let's have more of this. So, you know, I'm all on board overall, anyways.
Yeah, for sure. I guess that about does it, right?
Yeah, that wraps it up. So shows what you know show at gmail.com is where you can send any thoughts you have on Cobra Kai or suggestions for other shows that we can cover. We'd also appreciate a review on Apple Podcasts, especially if you have the time. And beyond that, you can also go to showswhatyouknow.com for all of our other shows. For instance, Cut to Black, where we talk about The Sopranos, and also about a million other shows. Beyond that, there's just one more thing, Jim.
Oh, one more thing. What's that?
Strike first.
Strike hard.
No mercy.